A couple of AFC teams trying to stay hot in the month of November. It's Broncos Texans on Crossover Thursday.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Broncos fans, Texans fans, a lot to look forward to at the start of the month of November. The Broncos, they've won 5 straight games. The Texans, they've won 3 of their last 4. And these two teams, man, they're looking to stay hot here. A couple of the best defenses in the NFL going up against each other. We'll talk some wide receiver corner matchups on this episode. And obviously our keys to victory for both of these teams. Welcome into today's show. We're so excited to have all of you. It's always an honor and a privilege for us to get to do this. Thank you so much for making Locked On Broncos and Locked On Texans your first listen of the day every single day. My name is Sayre Bedinger, co-host of Locked On Broncos, alongside John Hickman, host of Locked On Texans. And as always, Crossover Thursday is presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. John, excited to see you again. I know we got to do this back in 2023 when Russ was still the QB of the Broncos. And, you know, that was teams. It was very, very different teams, right? I mean, the Broncos have transformed so much since that point, but I think a lot of Broncos country views that game as sort of the before and after with the Sean Payton, Russell Wilson era, right? Because that was the Broncos were kind of on the cusp of making a little playoff run at that time. The Texans were obviously one of the hotter teams in the league at that time, CJ Stroud's rookie year. But like you mentioned, these two teams are vastly different. Now it's year 3 for both D'Amico Ryans in Houston and now Sean Payton in Denver. What's things looking like from Houston's perspective? An 0-3 start. Now they're kind of one of the hotter, more dangerous teams in the league.
Yeah, so they are trying to consistently, and this is what D'Amico Ryan says, stack good days, right? They dug themselves into a 0-3 hole to start the season. Obviously, that's incredible difficult to climb yourself out of and then make the playoffs in an AFC right now that has teams like Indy leading the AFC South. You got New England leading the AFC East. A lot of teams somewhat virtually come out of nowhere in the AFC. So very competitive this year. And like you said, 3 out of the last 4. Now, who has Houston played? They played a Tennessee Titan team that is a doormat for a lot of teams in the NFL right now. They played an extremely banged up Lamar Jackson-less and a bad defense in Baltimore, but then they also took on San Fran this past Sunday, and they beat a good San Fran, well-coached San Fran team, but they're down guys like Fred Warner, no Brock Purdy, no Brandon Ayuk, no Ricky Pershill. So they're down a lot of guys as well, though Houston went into that game down a few of their own men. So Houston right now, for a lot of fans, Bronco Country, a lot of swarmers out here in Texas, Houston fans, they just want to see Houston be the team that's a worthy opponent, right? And a team that's won 5 games in a row for Denver, that if Houston can pull it off, I think the conversation surrounding this franchise right now could be different because, now you beat a team that's good, that doesn't have the injuries, that doesn't have bad coaching, that doesn't have bad culture, that's in the playoff race. So that's what a lot of Texan fans are looking forward to right now. And Sunday, they'll get the opportunity to do it.
I think for Broncos country, it's how do you move forward without Pat Surtain, right? So the Broncos did not place Pat on injured reserve at this point, and that's great news because you feel like he's gunning to be back as soon as possible. He even kind of teased that on his own podcast, and he's talking about, he'll be back out there sooner than you know, right? So the Pat Surtain injury looms large over this Broncos team because we haven't seen them play without him this season, right? Other than a few snaps against, obviously, this past weekend when they beat the Dallas Cowboys. So they've got players that they believe can do it. They've got players out there that they really like, young corners. That's why he invests a first rounder in Jahdae Barrett. They love Chris Abrams-Drain, a 5th round pick from 2024, who absolutely hook 'em horns, right? For Jahdae. And so they believe in the guys that they've got. And I think that another interesting wrinkle in this game is also the return of Dre Greenlaw for that defense. And we've only got to see one game with this defense really at full strength. It came a couple weeks ago against the Giants, a crazy game in every way.
Probably that's the game of the year candidate for sure.
Right.
For sure.
I think
that was
so.
a crazy game.
Yeah, 99.8% chance to lose at 26-8 or whatever it was in that game. So pretty crazy stuff. But I think that's the biggest storyline for Denver this week, and maybe even both teams, is these defenses going up against offenses with young quarterbacks. Which defense can really flex its muscles?
That's a great talking point right there, because I look at Houston's defense and what they're going to have to go up against. Number one, y'all get after the quarterback. It's like a religion now. Every Sunday you pray, right? You eat your pregame meal. You come together as a family. You pray to the football guys, and then they bless you with sacks. I think you guys are averaging 4 sacks a game, and I think, what is it, up to 35, 36 on the year. But on the flip side of that, the same prayers that the defense is having, the offensive line is having the same thing. Hey, we don't want to have our quarterback sacked. Only 8 sacks for Bo Nix on the year. So that's a challenge for the Houston Texans defense. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter. Now, have they went up against edge duos like that? Well, you look at who they went up against in New York. New York, those guys were very great, maybe a little bit younger. Look at Abdul Carter, Thibodeau, and Brian Burns, who's been in the league for a while. But do they have the same impact as a Will Anderson and a Danielle Hunter? So that's going to be a matchup that I'm looking forward to. But also just stopping y'all run, 5 yards per carry. I think I'll start a running back right now. He's at 5.6 yards per carry. You guys find ways to open up rushing lanes, and that has helped, I think, tremendously with just bringing along Bo Nix. I'm not a big Bo Nix believer. I know you may be a Bo believer, not me, but the run game, the offensive line does a great job of setting up Bo Nix to be successful. So how can Houston's defense disrupt that? That's a very interesting matchup that I'm looking forward to seeing this Sunday.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive even a little bit deeper into the edge versus O-line matchups in this game as well. But you're right. I mean, I'm a Bo believer. I know so many in Broncos country are Bo believers.
And I hope he coined that phrase, because that kind of plays right into it for him.
Yeah, he's got to have some kind of trademark on that, right? I mean, you got to believe, right? So that's where Broncos country is at, though, right now. Is we've now seen Bo Nix for 25 games in the NFL, and he's got more touchdowns than I think 3 or 4 other guys through their first 25 games in NFL history. And so he's getting the job done in clutch moments. He's definitely not a fully refined product at this point. He tried a little no-look pass last week that resulted in his first interception in, about a month. And so he's not immune from making mistakes, but he is the type of guy who, like you mentioned, he doesn't take a lot of sacks. He doesn't really put the ball in harm's way all that often. So how can Houston maybe kind of force the issue there? That's what they're going to try to do with their edge duo, which, to your point, I think that's one of the best edge duos in the NFL right now, if not the best. I know Broncos country, we like Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper. We like our guys.
It is, and it's going to be bad for Houston. It could get tough for Houston. You got a great duo up there in Denver.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where this matchup could be won, right? Is which of these two duos can make the most plays. And we're going to break that down, as well as some wide receiver cornerback matchups in this game. No PS2, but Derek Stingley Jr., he might be right on his heels anyway as the best cornerback in the NFL. And then the Broncos breaking in their young guys against the Texans receiver room that might be getting some reinforcements this week. We'll talk all about it coming up next on today's Crossover Thursday edition. Locked on Broncos, Locked on Texans. Crossover Thursday is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere that PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been using PrizePicks during both football Sundays and now NBA tip-off. It keeps every game exciting. And if you like picking your favorite players to do well, you want to manifest it, you want to pick CJ Stroud to throw for more than 250 yards, or maybe Bo Nix to get more than 3 touchdowns, you can do that on PrizePicks. And if one of your players ends up leaving early with an injury, the injury reboot, it'll save your lineup from a loss. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Crossover Thursday is also brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone like what they're worth, right? Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's so easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface, whether it's on your laptop or on your phone. It helped me organize all my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without even having to touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with my wife, see our shared goals, and make our better financial decisions together. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools, they make it so easy to understand where our money is going and how to make it work harder for us. So don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. The expectation is that this is going to be a low-scoring game between the Broncos and the Texans, a defensive battle, but the playmakers, they're still going to have to come out and make plays. We're going to talk Broncos receivers versus, obviously, the Houston corners, and then vice versa. Which side is going to get the upper hand in this matchup? We're going to break it all down on today's Crossover Thursday edition. Locked on Broncos, Locked on Texans. Thank you once again to all of you that make us your first listen of the day every single day. We really appreciate you so much for doing so. John, I want to throw this to you. Let's talk about matchups in this game. Receivers versus corners, edge rushers versus tackles. I mean, take your pick here. This is going to be a really, really great game with matchups within the matchups, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Drake Greenlaw is coming back. So at that second level, curious to see what his impact is going to look like for the linebacker room, because last week, Fred Warner for San Fran was out. And then we see CJ Stroud go for, I think it was 11 of 11 with a perfect passer rating, over 100 yards in the middle of the field, short middle of the field. So, that played a huge role into how Houston was able to kind of neutralize the San Francisco rush. And I think that should be the game plan against Denver, to protect him, right? When CJ Stroud has time, or when he's not on his back, he's a different quarterback. And so I think that's a matchup as well. But you're absolutely right. Even with PS2 out, one of the best nicknames to have in sports, especially for us 90s kids. But with PS2 out, how can Houston really take advantage of that? Now, Nico Collins is expected to be back. Christian Kirk is expected to be back. Rookie receivers Jalen Noah, Jaden Higgins, they've been able to kind of have some good moments for Houston sporadically, but throughout the year. But that leaves a rookie cornerback out there with Barron, and then whoever the backup vet is. So that's a matchup that I think plays into the Houston Texans' favor. Now, on the flip side, you guys have an X factor who I really do like. And it seems like every time I watch a Broncos game, I watch a Broncos highlight, I may be on social media just scrolling, and especially as of late, I'm seeing Troy Franklin wide open. So can you give our Texan fans, our swarmers out here, a little bit of insight about Troy Franklin himself, and then also just how good has that receiving room? It doesn't get a lot of, the conversations around best receiving rooms in the league. You don't hear Denver a lot, but all things considered, a solid group that can make plays.
Yeah, Troy Franklin has really taken a big step in his second NFL season. Now, some of the issues that plagued him as a rookie, which were drops or not necessarily cashing in on all of his opportunities, some of those issues are still there a little bit, but we're seeing a major concerted effort from Sean Payton to get him involved. Sean Payton believes that Troy is one of the best yak receivers on the team, so he's getting him a ton of opportunities in that way. And he's also expanding the route tree. We saw that in a big way against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I don't know that anybody really could name many of the corners that Dallas had playing last week. So there is a bit of a caveat to that. But at the same time, you just want to see your guy go out there and make plays regardless. He's a second-year player who struggled as a rookie. You want to see him make plays in a regular season game. Troy is doing that. He's got 18 targets over the last 2 weeks. He wins with big-time speed. He's making plays in the red zone, and he's got that after-the-catch kind of just a little bit of sauce to his game, right? That he can add into the mix. You give him the ball on a quick screen or swing pass out to, wherever side of the formation he's on. And he's a threat. He is a threat in that way to kind of get upfield in a hurry. And the Broncos believe in his ability to do that. So alongside Courtland Sutton, he's kind of developing now into their clear wide receiver 2 this season.
Yeah. And I think with his ability to get open now, granted, Sutton and Franklin and Mims, who's been y'all in certain spots, they're going to have to go up against Derek Stingley, who I think is starting to kind of feel and play like himself a little bit more. He had the oblique injury to start off this year, and it's been rough for him, especially against JSN. But I think he's starting to feel himself a little bit more, but also Kamari Lassiter, who does a great job. You talk about Troy Franklin and his ability. He leads a team for Denver in yak yards. His ability to get open and then get upfield. Well, the matchup between Franklin and Kamari Lassiter, because on the flip side, Kamari Lassiter, guys, does a great job of he don't allow a lot of yak yards. I think that when we look at the small nuances of the game and what matters the most, making sure that 7 doesn't turn into 15, or those opportunities where receivers can cut up field and get additional yards. Kamari Lassiter plays well into that, so I think that he's going to have a good game, and he's going to have a good day. Now, I talked a little bit about the running back room, and how well you guys have been able to run the ball. Why is this team so good? I mean, it's a Sean Payton offense. They're built well up front to protect the quarterback and run the ball, but what has it been from the running backs themselves that has helped this offense get to where they are now?
I think it's the addition and the inclusion of J.K. Dobbins in the mix, as well as R.J. Harvey, who was just named the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Week this week. I think big-time stuff from those two guys, especially against Dallas. I mean, J.K. Dobbins had his second 100-plus yard game of the season, which that was almost as rare as the lunar eclipse, for the Denver Broncos for a couple of seasons there where they didn't have one for like 34 games or so. JK has helped turn that running game around. RJ Harvey has turned that around with the explosives, which weren't there before. So it's really a personnel thing in the running game. And then Bo Nix, when Bo Nix had a broken back for most of last year, for at least half of the season last year. So the running game for him was kind of off the table. Now he's kind of back in the mix as well, getting designed quarterback runs, or, you're getting the read option stuff. And there's just more wrinkles, I'd say, in the running game than last year, where you felt like it was, all right, hand it off to Javonte Williams for 1, 2, or 3 yards or a negative play. And that's really all you can manage at that point. So the personnel has been huge for Denver.
That's major. This is one of those games, and I know we're going to get the keys to victory and have that conversation, but D'Amico versus Sean Payton. Offensive coach, classic offensive coach versus defensive coach. The y'all defensive coordinator with years and years of experience versus a first-time play caller here in Houston and Nick Caley. So and D'Amico and Sean Payton, they went up against each other before coaching a couple of years ago, right? And that game ended with a few interceptions from Russell Wilson, which was probably the moment Sean Payton knew I had to get off of him. He's not going to be my quarterback for the future. A good back and forth game, but this is one of those moments where which coach is going to coach better? Which coach and their expertise will pull the most out of their guys. And so for Houston's defense, top in the league in a lot of categories. Ironically, the only thing that they're not top in the league in right now is sacks, but they're top in the league in terms of pressure and pressure rates. How can D'Amico neutralize Sean Payton's offense? And that's the battle that I'm really looking forward to.
That's going to be such a great chess match between those two guys. And then, like you mentioned, Vance Joseph on the other side, who's been kind of a madman, when it comes to the way that he calls a defense, and certainly different this week, though. That's going to be one of the major keys to victory. We talk about the chess match, but obviously how different is Vance Joseph's coverage scheme going to look without Pat Surtain out there? That will be fascinating. Will the Broncos change their identity on defense? Can CJ Stroud and that Texans offense keep stacking and keep building? We're breaking down keys to victory coming up next on Crossover Thursday edition, Locked on Broncos, Locked on Texans. Crossover Thursday is brought to you by Mazda, and Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, they sweat all the details, right? Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Jumping into the fourth quarter of Crossover Thursday here, and we're breaking down keys to victory for the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans here in Week 9. A big-time AFC showdown for the Broncos on the road in Houston. The Texans trying to get November off to a great start. The Broncos trying to keep that winning streak going. How is either of that going to happen? John, I want to throw it to you first. You guys are the home team this week. What's got to happen for the Texans to beat the Broncos here in Week 9?
The front four for Houston's defense got to get after Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been very good against the blitz this year. When blitz, he has a 64, nearly 65 completion percentage, 6.5 yards per attempt, 7 TDs, 1 interception. Those are some of his better numbers altogether. So for Houston's defense, I talk about the matchup between the tackles. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, they have to rise to the occasion. Houston's defense, their best players got to be their best players, and they got to be better than the best players for Denver. So I think that's key, because I gave you guys when Bo Nix is blitzed this year how well he's doing. But when he's under pressure, only 281 yards, 4.3 yards per attempt, 2 TDs, 1 interception, though, but a completion percentage of 44.6, 3 turnover-worthy plays as well. So he's a player that when he has, and he also has, 13 passaways under pressure. So just get the ball out, right? Live for another down. So he's a player that if everybody's covered on the back end, but pressure's getting into him, in his face, then that bodes well for the opposing defenses. And I think Houston has the players to do that. Offensively, though, 35 sacks, right? Nick Caley, the offensive line, they got to schematically win at the line of scrimmage. They cannot allow for Denver's front four to get hot. Now, y'all coming from the Mile High City, right? It's cold up there in Denver right now. It's a little windy out here in Houston, but a cold team, a cold franchise can't come out here and get hot, man. So, if we start to see that front four and that pressure start to get to CJ Stroud, then what my worry is, okay, then the second level of their defense is going to turn up. And then we look at, even without having PS2, Riley Moss, Jahdae Barron, that back end of the defense is going to start turning up, because they know, our guys up front got it handled. That's the scariest thing that I fear for the Houston Texans this Sunday.
That's exactly where the Broncos want to maximize. I think the players that they do have is getting that pressure from the front four and then letting the rest of that secondary kind of do its thing. It's been a bit of a feast or famine kind of year for the secondary, even with Pat Surtain, right? I mean, Riley Moss is targeted more than any corner in the entire NFL this season, and he also has the lowest completion rate allowed. So he's making plays, but he's also getting flagged a lot. He's giving up some big plays, right? So there's a feast or famine element to it that teams are willing to attack the Broncos deep downfield, even with Talanoa Hufanga and Brandon Jones on the back end, right? Like those guys are utilized in such different ways. And with PS2 not out there, it'll be fascinating to see, does Vance Joseph switch like he did last year when Riley Moss was hurt, switching from a primary man scheme to a lot more zone coverage? I don't think you necessarily have to do that, because last year it was Levi Wallace replacing Pat Surtain. This year it's going to be Chris Abrams-Drain, Jahdae Barron. You still got Jaquan McMillan in the slot. So we'll see what those guys can do. It's funny that you mentioned Bo Nix against the blitz. He was actually asked about that on Wednesday, and he had a pretty funny answer. He's like, wow, I didn't know those numbers. He's like, maybe teams won't blitz us as much anymore, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. So we'll see what happens, because like you mentioned, when he is under pressure, when that pressure does get to him, he's less willing to put the ball in harm's way and more willing just to kind of eat the throwaways or, throw it short of the sticks. And that's just as good. Oftentimes you get that extra possession for your offense.
I got a question. How good has the guards been for Denver this season?
Yeah, that's a great question. Quinn Miners is one of the best in the NFL, I think. I think he's a candidate for that. What's the new offensive line award that's coming out this year? I can't remember what it's called, like the protector of the year or something like that. I think Quinn
Which, by the way, I love. It's well overdue. Years, decades overdue.
100%. Because those things can help those guys make more money too. Hey, I'm all for it for the players getting what they got coming. So, but yeah, he's great. And then the left guard right now, actually, it's Alex Palczewski, who's like the team's fifth option at the position. So Ben Powers, he's out. Then the backup was Nick Gargiulo, who got hurt in the preseason. Then his backup was Matt Parrott, who just had a knee injury a couple of weeks ago. So now you're down to Alex Palczewski, who used to be like their jumbo package offensive tackle. Now he's starting at left guard. And Sean Payton just said on Wednesday, he's like, man, he doesn't look like he's just a fill-in at that position. So he's been playing pretty well.
That's good. Yeah, I asked that because Houston, again, I think the game plan at times send pressure, an extra guy too at Bo Nix. But what I like about Houston's defense, their D tackle unit, not a household name in sight, but those guys are extremely, extremely tough to deal with up front. And how Houston's defense is built, they can create pressure, especially depending on the matchup, inside to out. And Will Anderson doesn't allow a lot of quarterbacks to run away from him. Danielle Hunter doesn't allow a lot of quarterbacks to run away from him. So, like, if a quarterback breaks the pocket, they'll chase him down and they'll make a play. So I just wanted to, for our listeners' sake, just to get an insight on how the interior offensive line for Denver has been playing through 8 weeks. And that's another key matchup.
It is. It is. We talked about it, right? That the chess match within the chess match, these matchups within the matchup. I mean, this is such a fun game for fans of the game. Even if you're not a Broncos fan or a Texans fan, right? You watch this game, you see, hey, Houston's got so much on the line this week, right? They've got to get back to 500. They've got to get back keeping pace with the Colts, who were apologies from Broncos Country. We couldn't help you out on that one. A leverage penalty.
Yeah, man. What y'all was doing, man?
I don't know what they were doing. You try to get leverage on a 60-yard kick, just let the guy give it a shot, right? But yeah, it's the Texans trying to get back into at least keeping pace with the Colts, if not getting up in that wild card race. And then the Broncos, they're in first place right now, trying to fend off the Chiefs, the Chargers. Nobody really cares about the Raiders, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where we're at this point in the season. Is all right. Now you got a chance to go on the road, do something. If you're Houston, it's like be the aggressor in this situation, right? So these two teams are going to be fighting, just absolutely scraping and clawing for this win, which I think is part of the reason why Vegas has it as the lowest over under of the week. 39.5 points, very, very low over under for two of the best defenses in the NFL. So I guess they're showing some respect there. But Broncos Country, Texans fans, we appreciate you so much once again. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Go ahead, check out Locked On NFL. Check out all the other fun stuff the Locked On Network has going on. Get everything into your algorithm on YouTube or into the top of your podcast feed, however you choose to consume content. We appreciate you so much. We'll catch you on tomorrow's episode of the show.